Let's put a little more Lysol down over there.
Oh, right there?
On today's special quarantined edition of the Thrive Time Show, the financial advisor who manages over $1.5 billion of assets, Randy Carver, joins us to share how to get the most out of each and every day as he unpacks his book, 1440, What the Ultra-Successful Do to Get More Out of Every Minute and How You Can Too.
Now, Clay, if we have time,
And we won't.
I'd like to talk about my newest book called 22 Steps to Killing All the Coronas and Your Economy at the Same Time.
I can't. Is that spray paint again?
Well, it could be. There's no label on it.
That could kill people.
Well, the way I look at it is you should be willing to kill your entire economy and maybe even yourself to kill the coronas.
Some shows don't need a celebrity narrator to introduce the show, but this show does. 2 men, 8 kids, co-created by 2 different women, 13 multi-million-dollar businesses. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Thrive Time Show.
Now, 3, 2, 1, here we go!
Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, and we'll show you how to get here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here. Started from the bottom, now we here.
Yes, 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 and yes. Thrive Nation, on today's show, we are interviewing the financial investment wizard, Randy Carver. Welcome on to the Thrive Time Show. How are you, sir?
I am great, Clay. Good to talk to you again.
Hey, for the people out there that don't know just a whole lot about your background, before we get into your book, 1440, can you share with people about some of the adversities that you've had to push through en route to being on today's show?
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I think some of that's key to what we're going to talk about because it's always an opportunity in adversity. So when I was very young, I was diagnosed with, or misdiagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. As a result, they took out about half my lungs, my spleen, my thymus, and I ended up missing about 3 years of school. But at that time, because I needed something to do, I started reading the Wall Street Journal. I was probably about 11 years old. Subsequently, got a pacemaker put in, heart stents. Both my legs are metal from the knee up, and had a few other mishaps along the way. But anyway, we're here.
You've survived a plane crash, I believe, and motorcycle crashes. Am I correct?
Yeah, pretty much has a motor in it. I've wrecked it. Planes, motorcycles, cars, skydiving accident.
You are a medical anomaly. You seriously are
Yeah,
like
I'm very lucky.
So you now are you really value every day. And you wrote this book called 1440, which talks about the 1,440 minutes that we all have per day and what ultra-successful people do to get more out of every minute and how you can too. What first inspired you to write this book, 1440?
You know, I've been very fortunate to enjoy a lot of success personally and professionally. And frankly, I just want to help others. I get a lot of calls asking what we're doing, how we're doing it, both on the personal side because of all the medical stuff, but also on the professional side. So I thought, you know, help is not a zero-sum game. And this was a way to really try to help as many people as we could. And frankly, you know, if you look up books on success, there's about 265,000 on Amazon. And many will tell you what to do, but not really how to do it or why. And that's what I really wanted to try to get the message out about.
I have found that super successful people, and a lot of the guests we've had on this show, all of the super successful guests that we have on this show, are very fastidious about managing their time. And in part 1 of your book, you titled it Traits of the Ultra-Successful. Talk to me about some of the traits of ultra-successful people that frankly are just not common amongst most people.
You know, I think the number one thing is as simple as it sounds. And of course, you know, a lot of success is very simple. It's just not easy because it takes a lot of discipline. But I think one of the biggest things I see is that people get up early. I mean, they're getting up at 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, 5:30, just to get stuff done. And it's amazing. By getting up a little bit earlier, you got to buy yourself some time. The other thing is consistently, people have a very clear vision of what they want to do or to accomplish, whether it's in the long term or even for the day. And I think that's critical.
I know that for me, I like to wake up at 3 and then plan my day. And whether it be during a time of pandemic crisis or not, I like to go ahead and ordain my destiny for the day. I like to make my plan for, what am I going to do for my faith, my family, my finances, my fitness, my friendship, my fun. I like to devour the books I'm going to read. I like to plan my whole day before I see people, because I have found that people are very emotional based upon how they make most people make their decisions based upon emotional arguments as opposed to logical arguments. And I just want to know what I'm going to do for the day before I see anybody else who opens their mouth with their opinion, maybe an opinion of the news or whatever. What time do you wake up, my friend?
I typically get up at 4:30 or 5 every day. It's great you say that, because I am probably like most business people. I've got a lot of ADD. Frankly, I don't know, because I've never sat long enough for the test. But writing stuff out and having a plan makes a big difference. Plus, anymore, once you open your email or get into stuff, you're kind of done. And so one of the things I personally kind of write out what my next day is going to be at the end of the day. So maybe a little bit opposite of what you're doing. So before I finish work or the day, I'll write out the most important stuff I've got to do the next day. And so no matter what comes up, I know those are the key things that I need to do. So for me, I typically get up. I like to work out first thing. I have to, or I literally can't breathe. I've got about 41% of my lungs left. So unless I exercise, I'm pretty much done. So I do that. And then typically I use the next hour or so for anything that requires more thought, basically writing or really doing something that takes a little bit more deep thinking. And then I get into the email on the day and so forth.
I want to make sure the listeners out there get this idea. Randy, you mentioned you kind of make your day the day before. You make your to-do list for the next day before you go to bed. And what I do is I print out a to-do list every day. I actually have a Google document that whenever something comes into my life I need to do, I add it to the document. But then my printed version of it is what I get done for the day. So like today, I'm just looking at my to-do list now. I have to edit an interview we did with Garden Diva. I have to edit the show I did with Ryan Kuhn today. I have to edit the show we just did with the co-founder of Netflix. I have to edit a show that we did with, and I'm just looking at the list, and with the power of the to-do list, and Randy, maybe you can speak to this, is I frankly don't even know what I have to do today because it was in the to-do list yesterday. So let me keep going here. I've got to edit Ryan Kuhn today. I've got to edit Sean Spicer, the former former press secretary for President Trump. I mean, I have all these things I have to do today that I couldn't even remember right now unless I would go back to my list. Can you talk about using the list as a place to remember what you're supposed to do as opposed to trying to remember what you're supposed to do?
Yeah, there's two things, and it brings up another point. There's a second list that I think is incredibly powerful, and that's a to-don't list. Stuff you should not be doing. Because I tend to be a micromanager, have to do everything person. It's really hard to let go. I want to sit down and say, these are the things I should not be doing. So if I'm writing something, I'm pretty good at writing. I need someone else to edit it because I'm just semi-literate. I should not be doing that. I should not be, doing the books for our business. It's not a good use of my time. What I should be doing is creating the vision and then having people deliver on that. So one of the most powerful things that I found is a to-don't list as well as the to-do list. But I love the idea of kind of a living document that as stuff comes up, you throw it in there, and then maybe at the end of the day or beginning of the day, you start to prioritize all the stuff. So using your Google Doc, someone could then sort it and say, you know what, this needs to get done, but not by me. So kind of a do-ditch, delegate type thing. Where you say, I got to do this. This shouldn't get done. Or I need to delegate this. I think it'd be a cool twist on that.
In your book, 1440, chapter 1, you talk about how successful people are passionate. Can you maybe define what you mean by that?
It's when you just enjoy doing something. You want to do it. I think one of the examples I give is with Warren Buffett. At the time when I wrote the book, the guy was 87 years old. He gets up at 4 a.m. every day. He
Right.
loves what he does. It's not that he needs to make more money. And so I think if people can be good at something that they're not passionate about, but you're never going to be great at it. You absolutely have to live it, breathe it, think it. It's got to be the first thing you think of in the morning and the last thing at night. So if you're not passionate about what you're doing, you could probably get by, you can be reasonable. But if you want to be great at something, you absolutely have to find something that you care about just more than anything.
I have found that people who are not passionate about something can become almost dangerous because their mood can be impacted by the news, the media, the opinions of everybody all around them. Would you agree that it's
Absolutely.
almost dangerous to be a business owner and not carry a to-do list and prioritize what you want to get done?
I think it is, but more significantly perhaps is if your team is not passionate or doesn't see your vision, then you've got a very big problem. And one of the biggest mistakes I see is people trying to motivate team members or even themselves with money. We all want to make money. We want to make a lot of money. But that in and of itself is not going to drive somebody to go above and beyond. So if you can get people that believe in your vision and are passionate about it, then you're going to be successful. But if you're just trying to motivate people with money, it's just going to be expensive and frustrating. And like you said, when stuff's going well, everything's fine. When you hit a crisis like now, that's when you're going to see the difference that a cohesive team makes. And even for yourself, I don't mean you, Clay, I mean just anybody. If you're passionate about what you do, then it doesn't matter what's happening around you.
Well, we're doing today's interview on a Sunday for a lot of reasons. One is there's a quarantine going on for certain industries and people and that sort of thing. Most states are in some kind of quarantine. And I really, really like interviewing you. And I don't care if it's on a Sunday or a Saturday or what day it is. I'm passionate about sharing your tips for success with people. But if I didn't like this, I wasn't passionate about it. And if you weren't either, we'd go, well, it's a Sunday. And, with the quarantine, why don't we just... So I have found that this quarantine thing is really killing non-passionate business owners. Have you noticed this? Whenever an adversity happens in the economy, whether it would be the great dot-com crash or whether it be the 2008 recession, that whenever something happens economically, that it typically eliminates the people that are not passionate. Have you found this?
I think not only that, but it's going to eliminate businesses that really weren't operating properly. It's like Buffett says, it's not till the tide goes out do you see you swimming naked. This economy's been carrying a lot of businesses, and I think actually because of what's happening, when we do come out the other side, which we will, we're going to actually have a lot stronger businesses because those that were passionate, those that knew what they were doing will survive, and those that weren't are not going to survive. And so it's going to clean up a lot of things. And frankly, it's kind of a paradigm shift in how we do business. Like you said, a lot of the countries shut down. They're doing stuff remotely. So I think you're going to see all kinds of new industry and new things. But at the core of all that, the fundamentals never change. That the owner, the visionary, has to be passionate, and the team has to buy into that vision.
100% true. Now, for the listeners out there that maybe don't know a lot about your firm, can you share with us what you guys do over there at Carver Financial Services?
Yeah, thank you. We are a financial planning firm, if you take it in a 100-mile view. But what we really do is we listen to people and we view what we do as vision planning. We want to know what someone wants to do, and then we figure out how to do it, primarily with financial tools such as mutual funds or index shares, IRAs, that type of stuff. But most financial planning, most investing is done from an investment-centric view. People look at the investments, or they say, I have this much money, this is what I can do. We take the opposite approach and say, what is it that you want to do, and how can we accomplish it? So we now have, in fact, I just hired another person Monday, because I think stuff's going to continue to grow. So we just hired a new person, started last Monday, bringing our team to about 23 people, and we manage about $1.5 billion for clients all over the world.
Now, have you been following this Paycheck Protection Program? Have you been looking into that?
We have, yep.
And
there's a number of.
Go for it. I did not mean to cut you off.
No, I say there's a number of SBA programs. In fact, we have a white paper I can give to you if you want to give it to your listeners, which is a real good summary. It's amazing some of the programs that are out there. There's an emergency relief bill that's even faster that you have to apply for directly. And then the Paycheck Protection Program, you have to go through a bank to apply for that.
So far, I've had clients all over the country who have applied for the Paycheck Protection Program. And by the way, if you're listening out there today and you want to know where you can apply for the Paycheck Protection Program, we have all of the links that you will need to apply. We have all of that available for you. Just look for the show titled How to Quickly Grab a Hold of Your Financial Lifeline. Look for that title, How to Quickly Grab a Hold of Your Financial Lifeline. And I was told as of Friday that we have, of the 160 some odd clients I work with, we've got about 10 of them across the line now that are approved and are supposed to be funded there, I believe, starting Monday. So we'll see how that goes. What are your thoughts about the Paycheck Protection Program that gives people 2.5 times their monthly payroll, and they don't have to pay it back as long as they follow the guidelines?
Yeah, I think it's going to be incredibly helpful, and I think people should apply for it. What we've been hearing, and that's amazing, what's happening with your people is a lot of banks, unless you have an existing relationship, they're really not taking applications yet. And even those that are taking them are kind of backlogged because they're not really sure what to do. But I would absolutely, if people have a relationship with a bank, I would apply immediately. If you don't, as I say, we can get a list of banks and start looking. But I think any business that's impacted or thinks they're going to be impacted, because quite frankly, both from the market standpoint and the economy, I think things are going to get worse before they get better. So I would say it's a very important thing to be proactive in getting some capital for your business, which would include the Paycheck Protection, and then there's some other programs, including some tax credits for payroll tax and other things that are available.
If you're listening right now and you have not yet applied for the Paycheck Protection Program, do it today with your local bank, your local credit union. Get it done. If you have any questions or you feel stuck, please email us right now at info@thrivetimeshow.com, info@thrivetimeshow.com, and we will walk you through that process. Many people have told us, they said, do you guys make a commission on this? No. Why are you doing it? Well, because I am passionate about it. Just as Randy mentioned earlier, we want to help you, and nothing can be more scary than being unable to be in business and not knowing how to get that capital that you need. So, again, if you feel stuck, email us today at info@thrivetimeshow.com. In your book 1440 there, Randy, in your book 1440, What the Ultra Successful Do to Get More Out of Every Minute and How You Can Too, you talk about how successful people all have a clear vision. Break down how this is different than what most people have. How is having a clear vision different from what most people have by default?
I think most people, frankly, don't know what they're trying to accomplish. In other words, a lot of businesses talk about we want to make money or we want to sell products. Those are all byproducts of whatever the vision happens to be. And so it doesn't matter how good your product is or how good what you do is. If you don't know where you're going, I think you're going to have a big problem. An example I would give you is if you have a Ferrari, which is a phenomenal car, and your friend has just a beater car, and you say, we're going to go to dinner, meet at the restaurant. But he knows the address and you don't. Who do you think is going to get there first? It's not about the car. It's about knowing the destination. And so I think when I look at businesses, it's not some amorphous, hey, we want to make more money. We want to be the best widget salespeople in the world. No, we want to do something very specific. So our vision is always to make people's lives better. Our team, our clients, and our community. That's the vision of Carver Financial Services. So everything we do is driven by that. And the nice thing about a clear vision is it makes the decision-making process very easy because you know what you have to do. Our team knows you always put the client first, the team second, and yourself third. And all decisions are made with that. And so by having that clear vision, then the business can move forward. But without that, I think it's impossible to know what you're doing. Because frankly, if you don't know where you're going, how do you know what you're doing today is going to move the ball forward?
So when you have this clear vision for Carver Financial Services and you see the economy falling apart, not because of there's a fundamental underlying problem, but because large portions of the economy have been just shut down immediately, what advice are you giving your clients right now that have considerable portfolios invested with Carver Financial Services?
Well, I mean, one of the things that we've always believed in is you've got to prepare for the unforeseen because we don't know what we don't know. And so typically we will always keep 6 months to a year's worth of cash and bonds that people can access if they need it. So the first thing we're saying is before you panic, because fear is a very dangerous thing, let's look at the facts and let's look, have you been affected? Yes, but can you continue to live the way you want to? Absolutely, because we planned for that. But, going forward, then the question is, what is important in your life? Do we need to make changes or don't we? And we start to look at it logically. Are there things you don't need to do? Are there ways to use credit? Right now, as you just said, there's some amazing deals for businesses. The same thing's true with mortgages. We're seeing increased lending for all kinds of things. Perhaps you refinance your mortgage and drop the rate at this point. So a lot of things that can be done, I think, to help. And frankly, I think, not to digress too much, there are 3 big opportunities for people right now because of this market. I think number one, people have the opportunity to do what are called tax swaps. And that's where you have investment A, and you move it to the same type of investment with company B. So for example, if you go from Vanguard to Fidelity or Fidelity to Vanguard, and you could take a write-off on any drop in value while still owning the investment. You don't want to get out because things are down, but you can book a write-off that you can use this year, or if not, you can use it in the future. The second thing is if people have tax-deferred money, like IRAs or 401k, it's a good time to convert to Roth, which grows tax-free. So you will pay tax on what you convert next year. However, every penny from then on will be tax-free. And as things rebound, that money will be tax-free as well. And then finally, if you have a long-term outlook, 2-3 years, and you have cash, it may make sense to start investing. We do think things may go lower, but it's impossible to time that. And so, the IRS, you talked about the CARES Act, that there's some really interesting things, everything from deferring your taxes till July. That also means you now have till July to fund your IRA or your Roth or your retirement plan. So you have some extra time to do that. So I think there are a lot of opportunities out there.
In your book here, 1440, you talk a lot about setting SMART goals, which I think it's even more important to set SMART goals when you're going through a difficult economy. Explain what SMART goals are and why ultra successful people set SMART goals.
Oh, it's a great question. So SMART is an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, results-focused, as opposed to process-focused, and time-bound. So you have a very specific goal. It's not, I want to lose weight. That's not a specific goal. But if you say, I want to lose 10 pounds in the next 3 weeks, and here's how I'm going to do it. That's more of a SMART goal. You have a specific goal, specific time frame, and the outcome is very measurable.
I think a lot of people set goals, and they're if a SMART goal is specific, measurable, if a SMART goal is the definition you provided, I think a lot of people, most people, set what I would call woo-woo goals. You know, goals where they're woo-woo, goals where they say, I just want to be more successful in 2020. I want to be amazing in 2019. I want to be awesome starting in the third quarter of next year. Talk to me about why you think most people set vague woo-woo goals.
Well, because it makes you feel better without doing anything.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if the goal's measurable, then you have to hold yourself accountable whether you're making progress or not. If it's just, hey, I want to get better, or I want to, like you say, it's some woo-woo goal, that then you feel good without doing anything. It's kind of a junk food goal, I guess. It doesn't really do anything for you. It probably hurts you because you're taking time away from doing things that could help you.
That is how I know if a conference is going to be junk or not. It's if the person leading the conference is all about vague generalities and motivation the entire conference. Would you agree, or how do you? Because there's a lot of great conferences people can go to, but tell me about what kind of your filter for looking for what kind of conference is a waste of time and which one's a good one.
Yeah, well, I mean, to your point, I think you can go out and get motivated, but if you're motivated and doing the wrong stuff, you're just going to do the wrong stuff faster. So getting cranked up and you're great and you're the best doesn't really do anything. So I agree. I think if you're looking at conferences, before you sign up, figure out why you're going. What do you hope to get out of it? So I don't, frankly, go to very many conferences, but the ones I do, I go with a very specific purpose. This is what I want to get out of it, and it looks like this is what it's going to deliver. So we look at the agenda, we look at the speakers, etc. In fact, a partner of mine and I started hosting a conference 3 years ago for that very reason, because we found, a lot of conferences, like you say, were very general, very vague, or that they were kind of all over the place. So, they'd be in the financial services industry. You might go to a big meeting and they'll talk about everything from cryptocurrencies to whether active mutual funds are better than passive, to is Europe good, to hiring people, to do you have a buy-sell agreement, just a whole smorgasbord of stuff, whereas they're not focused on one thing. So we decided to host a conference specifically for financial people, the best financial people in the industry, with the single goal of how do you exponentially grow your business when you're already successful. And that's all the conference is focused on. That's all the speakers are focused on. And so, the last conference I went to was it's called T3. It's a tech conference for financial services. And again, all it's focused on is technology for the services, but it's not product sales. It's talking about the why, the how, and getting a sense of what's out there. So I think if people are, it's kind of like the woo-woo goals. I know people that go to conferences to kind of feel better about themselves, saying, look, I'm taking this time, I'm spending this money because I'm learning, and really they're not. They're just taking time and spending money.
In your book, 1440, you say something that made me clap when I read it. You said super successful people gather relevant information. They don't just gather information from everywhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you down what I know about the coronavirus, okay, Randy? And you tell me if what I'm telling you is relevant or not, okay?
Sure.
I was researching. I'm like, when did America get scared? I was thinking, when did we get scared? Because I've never been scared about it at all, me personally.
Right.
But I was thinking, like, when
Right.
did people get scared? Because, fear blocks logic. It's if you look at neuroscience, when you're fearful, it's hard to make logical decisions. It's hard to make a game plan for how to redecorate your garage while you're in the middle of a battle in war, So I made this page called thrivetimeshow.com/coronavirus where I timeline it out. So thrivetimeshow.com/coronavirus. And so what I heard was the initial prediction for the number of deaths that was 2.2 million. I thought, well, if the initial prediction is that the coronavirus could kill 2.2 million Americans and 500,000 people in the United Kingdom, who made that prediction? Because if I made the prediction, nobody should listen to me if I made it, because I'm not really, a credible source. So I looked it up, and I found that a guy by the name of Neil Ferguson, who is the director of the Abdul Latif Jameel Institute for Disease and Emergency Analytics, he came out and said, hey, I predict 500,000 British deaths and 2.2 million American deaths. And then he adjusted that now, saying that he predicts 20,000 British deaths and 88,000 American deaths. So I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go and listen to Dr. Deborah Birx, who is leading our fight against the coronavirus. And so this is her press conference at the White House here. I just want everyone to hear this audio. Listen to Dr. Deborah Birx here. She says,
I'm sure many of you saw the recent report out of the UK
from Neil Ferguson
about them adjusting completely their needs. This is really quite important. If you remember, that was the report that said there would be 500,000 deaths in the UK and 2.2 million deaths in the United States. They've adjusted that number in the UK to 20,000. So 500,000 to 20,000.
Now, Randy, you're a math guy. When you take 500,000 predicted deaths and you adjust that to 20,000, would you agree that's 25 times smaller of the number of predicted deaths?
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
Now, I have audio here. This is President Trump explaining why we shut the country down. So let me listen to this audio here.
So together we're going to win this war, and the sooner we do, the sooner we can begin to rebuild, and we're ready to rebound and return to normal lives. We went from the best economy in the history of the world, the best economy that this country has ever seen, the best employment numbers we've ever had, 160 million people working, almost 160 million, to a point where the professionals came to me and they say, sir, you're going to have to shut the country down. I said, what does that mean? They said, sir, you're going to have to shut it down. And we're going to build it up, and I think we're going to build it up fast. I think we're going to have a tremendous rebound. There's a great energy.
So I want to make sure we're getting this idea. And Randy, you tell me if I've lost my mind here. But did you know who Neil Ferguson was until like a month ago, 2 months ago? Did you know who he was?
I did not.
And did you know that he's the director of the Abdul Latif Jameel Institute for Disease and Emergency Analytics?
I don't even know what the Abdul Latif Jameel Institute for Disease and Emergency Analytics is, but I'm sure they have a cool acronym like JID or something.
Right.
So no.
So I thought to myself, before we shut the economy down, perhaps we should know more about the Abdul Latif Jameel Institute for Disease and Emergency Analytics. Would that make sense to you if we're going to gather relevant data?
I would agree.
So I looked it up, and I'm going to spare the listeners the rabbit trail. But all I'm saying is to assume that a person we've never met before, Neil Ferguson, who's the director of the Abdul Latif Jameel Institute for Disease and Emergency Analytics, to assume that his predictions were made with your best interests in mind doesn't make any sense. Furthermore, Deborah Birx are medical professionals. And have you ever met medical professionals that were wrong, Randy? I mean, have you ever met somebody who's been misdiagnosed?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for years, me.
You, and they told you what? How are they wrong medical professionals?
Oh, first of all, they had the wrong disease. They treated me wrong, and then at the end they said I had 6 months to live. And that was 43 years ago.
So it is possible that medical professionals could make, errors like anybody else. But also, shouldn't we consider if the person providing the information has our best interests in mind?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I thought,
sure.
who's Deborah Birx? So I looked up Dr. Deborah Birx, and I'm assuming she's a great lady, but it appears as though she was appointed by a very progressive Barack Obama, President Obama. So everybody in America decided that we need to shut the country down. That was the worldview, the prevalent worldview on social media, because of a prediction by a Neil Ferguson, who we've never heard of before. How crazy is that? Then we decided to parrot the report in the U.S. by Dr. Deborah Birx, and now it seems like nobody seems to hear the fact that the predictions were off by 25 times. So then I thought,
Yeah,
you know what I'm going to do? Let's listen to an interview. This is an interview with the University of California, their specialist for infectious disease. And this is what he says the coronavirus does to kids. Let me play it real fast here.
As any parent knows, children get colds and viruses a lot. But mercifully, children are not getting terribly sick from this new coronavirus.
Children simply don't get very sick when they get this infection.
So Dr. Arthur Reingold says children simply don't get very sick when they get this infection. So that being said, if everybody had read your book, 1440, and had gathered relevant information before freaking out, do you think we'd be in the same situation?
No, absolutely not. I mean, it's crazy.
Isn't it?
You and I have had this conversation just since this whole stay-at-home thing has happened. How many people have died from the regular flu? Certainly more than from corona, let alone cardiac disease, medical mistakes, and everything else. It's kind of insane. It really is.
And I think as a culture, what we do is we gather not relevant information. We gather the most emotional information by default. Would you agree with that? That unproductive and unsuccessful people gather emotional information as opposed to relevant information?
Well, absolutely. And think about the motivation for that. Politicians generally need a crisis to solve to get elected.
Yes.
And the media needs viewers to tune in to sell advertising. So when you've got the politicians and the media, both have a vested interest, and this is left, right, center. It's not a, one way or the other issue. It's all of them have a reason to create panic and fear to solve the crisis, kind of like the fireman that starts the fire. You start to think, well, really, why are we running around like this? It's kind of crazy.
Kind of crazy. Can you think of anything that maybe isn't this crazy, but something that you have experienced in your life that is an example maybe through history? I think of the gas crisis of, 1979, where
Right.
there was a fear we were
Okay.
running out of oil.
Right.
And so when people were afraid of running out of oil, can you share with the listeners, Randy, what happened when people were afraid that we were running out of oil?
Well, of course, everybody, ran to get tons of oil. And it's like, both recessions, inflation, any of these panics become self-fulfilling. Because if you tell people you're not going to have enough of something, whether it's toilet paper or oil, people run out and buy it, and then there isn't enough. In Israel right now, it's eggs. Someone said they're going to be short of eggs.
Eggs.
People are buying eggs like crazy. But it's the same thing with the toilet paper or anything else. If you tell people, hey, there's going to be a recession, people stop spending to save money for the recession. It creates a recession. Conversely, if you say, hey, we're going to have inflation, prices are going to go up, people buy a ton of stuff before the prices go up and drive prices up. So I think a lot of this becomes self-fulfilling. And that's frankly a lot of what we're seeing right now.
In your book, 1440, What the Ultra Successful Do to Get More Out of Every Minute and How You Can Too, you talk about controlling your time. And Nielsen now reports that the average person before this crisis was spending, before this panic, before this hysteria, was spending 11.3 hours per day consuming media. Before this, 11.3 hours per day. Have you met a lot of successful people that allow themselves to be interrupted by Fox News and CNN 11.3 hours per day?
No, but it's hard not to. I'll
Oh.
tell you. You're drawn in. But no, let alone social media. All the social media stuff that people are spending time on, even before this.
Yes. My literary agent, she represents Tim Tebow and Justin Bieber and some big people. And she said, Clay, I've been listening into your shows, and I think it'd make sense if you'd put together a book about the coronavirus. We could put it out and people could have it. And I said, I'm going to do it. I'll do it. I'll put, just kind of timelining it out. Well, Randy, you and I are very good at, blocking out the world and getting down to business. And so I turn on Spotify to listen to my epic music. That's what I like to listen to when I'm doing writing, is listen to like scores to movies, that kind of thing. And I'm listening to the Last Samurai soundtrack, just me downstairs in the man cave, working away. And it comes on and says, it's like a little interruption, and it says, COVID-19, you can be part of the problem or the cure or something like that. And I'm going,
Yeah.
what? You know, and so then I'm like, geez. And so it just kept happening. So I thought, you know what, I need to take a little 10-minute break. So I go to the gas station to get some gas. Oh, and people are freaking out getting gas. We got one guy who's filling up his vehicle like it's the end of the world. We got people wearing masks everywhere. It looks like a scene from Mad Max or something. You know, it's and I decided, I'm not going to go down the rabbit trail to watch the most recent Trump conference until I finish this book. I'm not going to. I'm not going to look at it.
Yep.
I'm not going to allow myself to be updated. I'm not going to turn my phone on and to receive the barrage of text messages until I finish my book. I have to have that kind of discipline. Can you talk to the listeners out there about the kind of self-discipline that ultra-successful people have to get more out of the 1,440 minutes we all have per day?
Yeah, you know, it's not just tuning it out. It's exactly what you and I just talked about. If you have a plan and you have a list of priorities, I guarantee you turning on the news isn't going to be one of them. So if you're working your list for the day, I think that's going to help do it. But it's, you know, some of the news by design, you know, it's like audio crack. You're drawn into it, like you said. And then what's worse, you know, your phone gets that noise with breaking news. Everything's breaking news.
Oh, it's all breaking
So
news.
one of the things that I have to do is, because I'm as guilty as anyone, and like I say, I totally ADD. I turned off all the alerts on all my devices because it just drives you crazy. So if I'm writing, you know, it used to be my email on the computer go ding, 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 ding.
Yep.
I get about 600 to 800 emails a day.
Oh, geez.
So thing sounded like a slot machine. You know, I turn that off, and it makes a huge difference. So literally, I will take on my list of stuff during the day, and these are the hours I'll check email. I'm not looking at it constantly, because once you get sucked in,
you're sucked
you're
in.
done.
You're done.
You know, so every couple hours, maybe you say, this is my half hour to do email, and then you get back to your writing or whatever you're doing. But I'll tell you, that list can be a real godsend with that, because it just focuses you on what you need to do. But of course, like you said, you got to hold yourself accountable, and that's I think that comes back to what we're talking about, being passionate. If you're passionate about something, you're going to hold yourself accountable. If you're not, you're going to get diverted off course.
I'm all about solving problems in exchange for compensation and helping my clients to do that. That's what I do.
Yep.
And
Yep.
one of my clients, he makes candles. That's what he does. He makes candles. And I'm not asking, I'm not trying to paint you into a corner about your candle knowledge, but one of the key components for making candles, it happens to be a key component for making hand sanitizer. And
Nice.
true story, one of my clients, just great people. These guys are really good people. Their company's called Secret Garden Candles. And if everybody goes to their website real quick, this is a true story. They've now converted their candle making company, that's been around for like 30 years, into a hand sanitizer making machine. No exaggeration, guys. If you go to sgcandleco.com, many stores are out of sanitizer. So would you believe, Randy, that these guys who maybe would do $20,000 of monthly sales before or $40,000 a month of sales before, they're now doing $40,000 of sales a day? Would you believe that?
That's amazing.
And it's
Yeah,
not because I'm a
that's incredible.
genius. It's just because I'm committed and passionate about making sure my clients are having, that they're being coached on how to solve problems for people in exchange for compensation. But I think a lot of candle makers are so freaked out. A lot of retailers are so freaked out they don't have the time needed to think and to think critically and logically about a plan. So let's talk about this.
Well, like you said, when you're panicked, it's hard to do anything.
Yes.
You know, it's like we just, it's funny you say that. I'm going to do a blog post this week on some aviation kind of rules or thoughts
Yep.
that I think hold true for everybody. And one of them is aviate navigate, communicate, which means first fly the plane. Don't worry about communicating. Don't worry about where you're at.
Yep.
Just get the thing stabilized. Then start to think about it. But the other one is sit on your hands. And that's what it means is work the problem. Don't just start pushing levers and pulling buttons because you're probably going to make it worse. Sit on your hands for 30 seconds and figure out what you're doing. Then act. Because most likely if you just start doing things, you're going to do the wrong thing. And so I think that's absolutely critical.
I talked to someone the other day who's an advisor for the U.S. Treasury. I cannot mention his name because I promised I would not. But would it shock you to hear that people in the Treasury are panicking and they're just hitting buttons right now? Would that?
Not really.
Yeah, he told me they're panicking and just sort of going, maybe we should try this. And as an advisor, he's going, stop talking so quickly. Literally,
Right.
Calm down. It's like breathing exercises. Calm down.
Yeah.
Step 1. Step 2, if you do this, there's a consequence, both good and bad. Let's at least whiteboard out what would happen before just making another policy. You know, and so you see these kind of things from, it doesn't matter whether you're working in the U.S. Treasury or a small business or flying a plane, but in your book, Chapter 16, you give us a pro tip. I love this. Create your own box. What do you mean by create your own box in your book, 1440?
You know, people always talk about thinking outside the box.
Yep.
Well, that still means you're thinking, with someone else's terms. I think what you need to do is create your own terms, create your own vision, create what you wanna do, and that means starting from scratch. Don't just be limited by what other people are saying.
I think that I have rules written on my walls in the studio. I'm going to read you some of my rules, and you tell me how it's important, how having rules written down may help you. 'Cause I'm sure you have your own principles too. But I have a staircase I drew, and it's a staircase that leads to friendship with me. So my rules are this: I will not be your friend if you are not diligent, coachable, loyal, kind, positive, and goal-focused. I just can't be around people that are not goal-focused, people that are negative, people that are mean, people that are disloyal, people that are uncoachable, people that are not diligent. I'm sure you have rules like that. We might call them principles. Do you have any rules like that in your own life that you use to make decisions? Because I think your book right here provides a ton of principles. But do you have rules like that you kind of have, whether it be for buying stocks or partnering with certain people? Do you have some hard principles that are kind of in your box that keep you going down the right path?
Yeah, one is think for yourself.
Oh, yeah.
Don't necessarily believe the experts. In the book, we talk about the quote from Patton. It says, if everyone's thinking alike, someone isn't thinking. And
Yes.
that's absolutely true. But you look at all the so-called experts that were so wrong about everything. And you go back to, I don't know, I give some examples like there's no likelihood man will ever tap the power of the atom. Nobel Prize winner, 1923. I think there's a world marketplace for maybe 5 computers. That was from Tom Watson, the head of IBM. Even Bill Gates was wrong about how much memory people would need. Let's see.
There's
The
so many.
concept is interesting and well formed in order to earn a C, but the idea must be feasible. That was a Yale professor on Fred Smith's paper on FedEx, the model for FredEx.
Yes.
which is great. It goes on and on. We don't like their sound, and guitar music's on the way out. That was Decca Recording rejecting the Beatles in 1962. So you go on and on and on. And these are not just, lay people. These are the so-called experts.
Yep.
So I just think you've got to think for yourself. One of the most famous ones is everything that can be invented has been invented. And that was Charles Dewey, the commissioner of the patent office in 1899. So, we go on and on and on
It's
in the
people.
book about some of these.
People don't know history. There's a quote from Mike Posner, who's a pop singer, who I typically don't quote a lot of pop singers on the show, but he says, I believe that even when the road is bleak, that these obstacles were set up just for me. You know, you kind of view, you gain strength through struggle. I mean, I could go on and on the counterintuitive worldviews you have to be successful as an entrepreneur. But your book is filled with them. It's one of the most practical books I've ever had the opportunity to read. And I just want to ask you this as we kind of wrap up today's show. 1440. I mean, this book it's hot. It's good. It's practical. It really does walk people through the best way to utilize the 1,440 minutes we all have per day. What happens? What happens to people that don't know how to manage their day, Randy? What happens to people that are very smart academically? They have a lot of degrees. They're kind of a business ninja with their skills. They're great at welding or Photoshop or graphic design or whatever that is. And they don't know how to manage the 1,440 minutes in their schedule. What happens?
I think you just wander aimlessly and you fail to accomplish everything you're potentially able to do. You just never reach your potential because you don't have that framework. And so it's kind of like we were talking before. If you don't know where you're going, it's pretty hard to get there. And so the day just gets wasted. And especially now, when people are in a home environment or away from the structure that they might otherwise have, you need to create that discipline. It just becomes a bigger problem. And then you superimpose on that all the social media, all the mainstream media, all the distractions. And I think without a plan, without a map, that it's very hard to accomplish much of anything.
How long have you been in
It's
business?
sad.
It's
very sad.
How long have you been in business, Randy?
I started Carver Financial in 1990 because I actually started financial services firm right out of college. I didn't intend to get into this business, but kind of got drawn in. And I worked for a company for 3 years and just found I didn't like where the industry was or what they were doing. The industry is all about selling product. It really wasn't about people, and it wasn't about helping people with their vision. And it's one of those things, if your goal is to go out and make money, whether it's for people or for yourself, you'll probably fail. But if you have a higher purpose, if you're trying to help people genuinely or you're trying to help yourself, then all the other good stuff's going to come. And so that's really was the genesis for the company, because it wasn't, build your own box. There was nothing else like it that was doing the personal vision planning that I saw.
If people out there have financial questions during these tumultuous financial times, what's the best way to get in touch with you?
You can email me. It's randy.carver@raymondjames.com, or you can call 440-974-0808, and I'll talk to you, or our team can talk to you. Also, we have a resource page. I'll send you the link. You can get it out to your Thrive Nation, which has got some stuff like we talked about on the SBA loans and some other things people can look at. Totally generic stuff, so they don't have to do anything with us. They can do it wherever they are, with whomever they're working.
Thrive Nation, we've interviewed Damon John, the founder of FUBU and the famous Shark Tank personality. We've interviewed Wolfgang Puck. We've interviewed John Maxwell, and the list goes on. The founder of Square, the head of Airbnb. But I can tell you consistently, Randy delivers some of the most practical knowledge bombs you could possibly get. His writing is incredible. Check out the book, 1440, What the Ultra Successful Do to Get More Out of Every Minute, and how you can too. And by the way, if you're saying, well, I don't know if this guy qualifies to give me advice. Listen, folks, he's broken, I believe, 2 different femurs, 2 heart attacks with stents, motorcycle crashes, airplane crashes, was misdiagnosed, went through hell and back, and manages over $1 billion, $1.5 billion of assets for his clients. His name's Randy Carver. Randy Carver, thank you for joining us again here on the Thrive Time Show.
Thanks, Glenn. Thanks for all you do.
Hey, take care, boss. Have a good one.
Cool.
And now, without any further ado, 3, 2, 1, boom!
Boom. Boom. Boom.
Why does this
still keep happening to me. I don't know whose prayer I'm breaking into, but I'm breaking into somebody's prayer saying, Lord, why do I keep going through the same things over and over again? And the Lord sent me here to tell you the problem is with your default. Until you change your default, you will always go back to being who you were before because you have never changed your mind. You change your friends, you change your address, you change your phone number, you change the songs you sing, you changed everything else, but you didn't change your mind. There is nothing as powerful as a changed mind.
Boom! Nothing as powerful as a changed mind. Boom! Better get yours, cause I'ma take mine. Boom! Leave them where they at if they ain't ready. Used to have a lot of homies, now they dropping like a Betty. I'm like, boom! We taking over, it's our time now. Boom! Oh, you ain't know, we about to thrive now. Big, overwhelming, optimistic, momentum, A-place. Hey, back, let me get 'em. Go get 'em then. Hurdle every obstacle, trying to do the impossible. Turned my whole life around, haters thought it was comical. Had to make some moves, didn't need to seem logical. Quarterback to play, man, I had to call it audible. Drop back, stop that. Rearrange or switch it up. Only got one life to live, it's best that you gon' live it up. Failure ain't an option, ain't no way that I can give it up. Hey, knowledge gon' pick it up. Nothing like your posse, look poppy, you cannot top me. They watch me and try to copy like Rocky, you cannot stop me. Hungrier than ever, we grinding all through the weather. We shining because we better get with us, we bout our cheddar. Once I change my mind, dog, trust me, ain't no going back. Coming for that top spot, I'm feeling like they owe me that. Time for us to level up, I feel like we've been holding back. Throw your hands up, say it with me if you know it, Dad. Boom! Nothing as powerful as a changed mind. Boom! Better get yours, cause I'ma take mine. Boom! Leave them where they at if they ain't ready. Used to have a lot of homies, now they dropping like a Betty. I'm like, boom! We taking over, it's our time now. Boom! Oh, you ain't know, we about to thrive now. Big, overwhelming, optimistic, momentum, A-place. Hey, back, let me get 'em. Yeah. Came a long way from where I used to be. Home need to see life the way I used to see it. Old habits die hard, but you gotta leave them. If they ain't riding like a Harley, then you don't need them. You're cheering and you're clapping, I don't need that. Fake friends treat them like Fat Joe, make them lean back. Excitement, no vision, makes you blind, I can see that. Anything I think up in my mind, I can achieve that. I can make a million if I want to. I'ma keep it real cause I want to. Other women try to holler, girl, I want you. And disrespecting wifey's what I won't do. Gon' do your dance, gon' do your dance. If you really wanna change, gotta have a plan. Even when they sit down, I'ma take a stand. Throw your hands up, say it with me if you know it, man.
Beliefs become your thoughts, thoughts become your actions. So be intentional about where your passion is focused. There's no hocus pocus. We only live once, man, and you know this. You can't press the rewind, but you can make a beeline to the next level like you're headed for the tree line. I was born in Minnesota, moved to Oklahoma, incorporated both into my rhymes. Now it's time to show you how a former stuttering student can turn out the raps with a lyrical miracle flow in the cash to match. Yeah, I'm imported, a Minnesota refugee, but I'm consistent as can be as I rap on hip-hop beats, bringing rappers and tax. Even though that I'm wise, I can play that funky music, but I ain't vanilla ice. Here we go, here we go, here we go, full steam. 3, 2, 1, dynamite on the scene.
Boom! Nothing as powerful as a changed mind. Boom! Better get yours, cause I'ma take mine. Boom! Leave them where they at if they ain't ready. Used to have a lot of homies, now they dropping like a Betty. I'm like, boom! We taking over, it's our time now. Boom! Oh, you ain't know, we about to thrive now. Big, overwhelming, optimistic, momentum. Boom!
And the Lord sent me here to tell you the problem is with your default. Until you change your default, you will always go back to being who you were before because you have never changed your mind. You change your friends, you change your address, you change your phone number, you change the songs you sing, you changed everything else, but you didn't change your mind. There is nothing as powerful as a changed mind.
Hear the rest of T.D. Jakes' incredible, life-changing, and mind-altering sermon, Nothing as Powerful as a Changed Mind Today, by looking up T.D. Jakes on YouTube and typing in Nothing as Powerful as a Changed Mind.
You're getting ready to flow. I feel the glory.
That is a lyrical miracle rap